Hello everyone, today I'm going to unbox and review the Drillmaster 120 volt quarter-inch trim router. It's a hand tool or hand router and it has a 26,000 RPM speed to it, so it's pretty quick, and it's basically for small wood routing projects. I have a bunch around the house where the wood needs to be replaced or trimmed or basically made to look a little better than what it currently looks like. And I'm also going to be using this 12 piece router bit set. It's a quarter-inch. They're all quarter-inch bits, and so they'll easily go into the standard quarter-inch collet that accepts most router bits. So I'm going to try all the router bits on there, separately, but I probably won't video that. But I do need bits to actually test it out and show you how it works. So this is the kit I bought to do that with, and both of these are pretty value priced, and available on Amazon. And I'll put the links to both of these things on Amazon as well. So let's get it out of the box. Well, here's your manual. I strongly suggest reading that and following all the safety precautions outlined on that. And nice box, good packaging. I would suggest to keep the box in this case because there's a lot of separate little parts to it, and you want to keep them all together in one place. The cardboard box will do most people just fine. So let's get all the gear out of here. Okay. Well, first thing, we've got a set of brushes for the motor. Great. So the brushes are removable or replaceable. That's a good thing. A couple nuts and screws, another nut and a little bolt here. So we'll see what that goes to. Probably to all the the guides that come with this unit. I will lay all the parts out and show you them all again. There is the wrenches. Those are the wrenches for putting on the bits and taking off the bits. So nice, gives you two of those. Yeah, this is the side guide here for guiding the router. And looks like another guide. That's great. It's adjustable, screw adjustable here, and basically I'll run through it and see how it works. But yeah, another router guide there. And of course, last but not least, the router itself. There we go. Put the box aside for now. Here we have all the parts and pieces that came out of the box. We have various nuts, bolts, and knobs, washers, and so on. A set of brushes for the motor. That's great. Nice to have a spare. Fence. Looks like a side guide or maybe a side cover for the actual router itself. I believe it goes with this trim guide. A couple of wrenches to put the bits on and off the head or the collet, and a trim guide here, adjustable trim guide, nice thing to have, and the actual router itself. And I will go over what pieces go with what here, the nuts, bolts, and washers, and so on. I'll show you how to assemble those and how they go. And next, I'm just going to go through the router and all its components. Here we have the actual router itself. It's a good looking unit. Has a nice finish on it as well, which I enjoy. It's got a nice feel to it when you're holding it. And let's go through the components. First, we have the clear adjustable base, and this allows you to adjust the base to whatever height you want or need to actually route at the right level. Also, you have a nice open window here, which allows you to have access to the collet and the actual locking mechanism here for the router to allow you to put router bits in without actually having to take this whole assembly off. There's plenty of space in there to tighten it up. So the two wrenches will fit in there, no problem. And as well, it's a viewing window, so it's nice because it allows you to see through to your work. So that, and it's a clear base, so that allows you to see through to your work as well. It's adjustable here with the rack and pinion, as you can see, and you lock it by screwing down this side, and that locks the whole unit down. So what else do we have? We have the access doors for the brushes. Nice to have the ability to change them when they wear out. That's a nice feature. We have the power on and off switch, which is it looks like it's a protected switch. So as you can see, there's two guards on both sides of the switch. Has a nice feel to it. Of course, we've got the power cord and the plug itself. So that's basically all the components of the actual router itself. Again, nicely built. It's got a nice motion to it here. This base is actually removable, and if you can see here, you'll see that there's a channel here that is off to the side for the removal of this unit. So let's go and do that. You get to the basically the end here, turn it a little bit, and then it comes right off. And then we have the router all by itself. Notice that also there's a depth guide here, a ruler in centimeters and inches as well. So that's a handy thing to have. So let's put the bottom base back on. Again, it's just the exact opposite procedure. Put it in through the gear there. Once it gets to the top, turn it counterclockwise, and then you're up all the rest of the way. And it does stop at the bottom here. That whole turning thing is how you get it off. So that's a neat feature as well. I like that. And so let's take a look at the actual rack and pinion here. I'm gonna just take it off the router. It's plastic, you know, it doesn't feel all that great, but you know, again, it'll probably do the job as long as you go easy on it. Okay, so I'm going to remove the lock there, and then I'm going to remove the gear. So there's the gear and the lock, and so the base is off now. There we go. And here we have the a nut and bolt mechanism that goes through everything. This little end piece here, I could turn it with my finger. I don't know if you want that to happen. I'm going to probably secure that down. See if I can anyway. Let's see what happens when I put it in there. Yeah, I'm sure I can tighten that down. So I'll use my wrenches here. It looks like an 8mm, and I'll just hold the shaft with the what do you call it? Adjustable wrench. All right, here's my adjustable wrench. So I'm going to put that on the shaft. First modification. I'm just going to tighten that nut down here. Not very tight, just snug. There we go. So it won't roll around anymore. Hopefully that fits nicely into the knob now. Let's make sure. Yep, there we go. And what that assures me is that the whole knob has channels in it. There we go. You can see the channels, and of course on the other side the octagonal, I think, or you know. Anyways, basically it fits nicer on this shaft, and now I have contact on this top surface and the inside surface on that knob as well. So you know, you may want to tighten that down. Don't need to, just one of those things I did. So next we're going to put this back in, and so the procedure is just the exact reverse of taking it off. Just put it in like this. I'm going to put the gear in. There we go, just like that. All right, it's all the way in, and put the locking nut back on here. There we go, and that's it. Next, just put it onto the gear, onto the rack here, the matching gear on the rack here, and then turn it counterclockwise, and goes the rest of the way. And then at this point, if you want to lock it down, you just lock it down. Okay, so 8mm and an adjustable to tighten that up. Let's put a bit into it. Seems to be pretty simple. I'm really happy that that switch is actually protected, because I could see that snapping off really easy. I mean, you're putting a bit in, you knock it the wrong way, and it would just gone. Then you'd be in a bit of trouble there. Have to get a new toggle switch on it. So I'm glad it's protected. That's a nice feature. They're thinking on that. So here we have the actual collet, and it just goes counterclockwise here. And basically the 1/4 inch bit would just drop in like this, and lock down using the 2 wrenches that are supplied. You can use your own as well if you wish. I think I will, because these are rather skinny, as you can see, and I've used them once already on here, and it's marring up the you know, even just once, using them once, it's already marred up my nut here. As you can see, some scratches on it there, and probably right on the other side as well. So I recommend using a better wrench than these if you have them. If not, they'll do just fine. All right, the two wrenches are a 10 millimeter and a 17 millimeter wrench. So you need two metric wrenches for that. I'm going to show you how to put the bit on, and I'm going to take the actual base off so you can see it better, but you can leave the base on and actually fit the two wrenches in there, and I'll show you that. So there's your 10 millimeter for the actual axle, and then the 17 millimeters for the collet nut will fit just fine in there like that. So but I'm going to take that off just to show you that. And okay, so there's the collar. That comes off very nicely, very easily. We'll put the bit in, and they suggest to put the bit all the way down. So I'm following their direction. Put the 10 millimeter on the shaft, and the collet nut, we're just going to tighten it down with the 17 millimeter. And you want it nice, you want it snug. Don't want to go so tight that you strip it, but that's pretty good right there. You'll develop a feel for that. Don't go too crazy on it. You do not want this to come off though, as you know, it is spinning at 26,000 RPM, and having that come off at that speed would not be a good thing. So make sure you follow that well. Okay. After mounting the bit, I wanted to give you a bit of advice on this. First of all, when the bit is put on here, it should be not. First of all, your unit should be unplugged when you're putting on the bit, or when you're handling the bit in any way whatsoever. Make sure the unit is unplugged. Even though you have a safety switch on the back, it doesn't matter. There is a possibility something will go wrong and turn on and hurt you. So unplug it when you're servicing the head or the bit. The first thing I wanted to show you too is there should be no wobble in that bit whatsoever. So let me zoom in as far as I can. All right, there should be no wobble in that head at all. It shouldn't be moving in this direction at all. It should be straight set when you turn it. There should be absolutely no, I mean, I'm moving the, here, let me hold the router a little bit better. But when you spin it, there should be no perceivable change in angle in the top. It should be staying steady and rock steady. And another way to check that is to flip it up on its top and look at the edges around the center circle here, especially with this bit, which is a very broad bit. And it should not wobble towards any direction. It should maintain the same clearance all the way around when you're turning it. So let's do that. And I don't see any perceptible, I mean, looks perfect. Doesn't look like it's moving at all. So, I mean, it's hard for me because I'm not holding it steady for you to see that, but basically, if you look at one of the blades and follow it all the way around, it should maintain in the same location or the same, you know, distance from the edge. Now, of course, this clear plastic isn't exactly centered perfectly, but it should basically, you know, you should not see any wobble in this in any direction whatsoever. It should be rock solid centered. Now, if it's not centered, the one thing you need to do is maybe take it out, refit it back in, and test it again. And if it's still wobbling, there's a possibility that you have a bent bit. So take the bit out, try all your bits and see if there's any wobble, or if they all have wobble. If they all have wobble, well, more than likely there's something wrong with the router. You know, there is a slight possibility every one of your bits is bent, but I mean, that's crazy. You know, it's possible, but doubtful. And if they all wobble when you put them in, then there's something wrong with your mounting collar or your collet, and in which case I would, you know, send the unit back or return the unit and get another one that takes the bits without wobbling. Another way to also check is that there should be very, very little vibration to the unit when it's at full speed. In other words, you should see very little or feel very little wobble. I don't know, I can't really show you that, but I'll turn it on here. And the best time to look for wobble is as it's powering down from full speed. I mean, you can see it at 26,000 RPM, it's going to be more or less a blur if it's wobbling. So you'll see that it's blurry. But when you power it down and it's slowing down, you should be able to see whether it's moving or not. So let's just power it up. And as you can see, it's just rock solid centered. So I'm very happy with how that's actually fitting into the center. Again, very little vibration on this unit when it's properly balanced, and it's balanced because the bit is not bent and it's actually fitting into the collet unit or the clamping unit perfectly. So that's the way it should be. If it's any other way, if you got any wobble at all, you know, change your bit, try it again. And if you still get wobble on all your bits, then it's not the bit, it's something wrong with the actual router. So what's one thing to make sure right off the bat is that you have proper alignment or proper lock on your bit. If you don't, return it, get another one. Next, you just put the base back on here like that, and now you're ready your router. As you can see, it fits nicely. There's a good space around the base for that router bit. So basically that's how you put the router bit into it, and now you're ready to rock and roll here. You adjust your height to what you want and then go routing. Next, we're going to put the fence assembly on the base of the router, and we have all this hardware that goes on here. First bit of hardware or kit is the locking knob and bolt for the base itself, and it is the locking knob, a silver washer, and a wavy or wave washer. So this is a washer bent into a wave shape. So we'll put that aside for now because we're not doing that right away. The next bit of kit or hardware is the actual hardware to assemble the fence, and you have a split washer. These are all black, by the way. A black washer, a black wing nut, and a carriage bolt. And the carriage bolt struck me as kind of something strange here, because if we look at the instructions here, and I'll bring it up a little bit, you'll see that they want the wing nut on top. Now, if you were to do that with this carriage bolt, it wouldn't work correctly. So they're actually showing you how to do this incorrectly in this description, as well as in the bottom half here where they show you how to do it as a temporary guide. Again, they show the wing nut on top, and that's just not going to work correctly for this unit, and I'll show you why here in a second. So we got the carriage bolt, and what's special about a carriage bolt is that it has an actual sort of nut base. You see that there's a square base on the bottom, okay? And that's handy here, except if you assemble it the way they tell you to assemble it, and I'll show you what I mean. Now, from your childhood toys, you know that a square peg doesn't go into a round hole. And the way they say to assemble this is to actually have the pieces come together like this, as such, and then to put the carriage bolt in through the bottom, as such. Well, what happens is that because it's a carriage bolt and it has a square base, it doesn't go through the round hole. It doesn't work right. And what you end up having is this space on the bolt on the back where you can't go any further through the actual unit. And then you get a lot of basically a lot of slop here at the top on that slider. Much better way to do this is to put the carriage bolt through the top, have it fall into the slider, and now the slider actually holds the carriage bolt from turning when you're putting the wing nut on it, and actually allows it to slide nice and smoothly on that slot. So the carriage bolt, as far as I'm concerned, should go through the top and down through the bottom. And once you've got that down, then we're going to put okay, and here's the orientation of the fence piece, so you can see like that. Okay, so once you got that through like that, then you're going to put your washer on your carriage bolt, your spring washer or lock washer, and your wing nut. And this makes a lot more sense than the way they say to assemble it. Now my wing nut seems to be having a bit of an issue here. There we go. And basically turn it clockwise until it locks. And you'll notice once it locks that you don't have to hold the carriage bolt because it's being held by the bracket itself here. Okay, so I'm going to lock it down all the way. And there we go. It's not going anywhere and it holds. Now, I don't find it to be the best of solutions here because it's still, let me zoom in on it. You'll see that there's still a space above on the top here. So what I'm going to do to fill that space on here is to put a washer in through that, and that'll give me more surface contact on this actual slider. Though it's working right now, it's not really working to my, satisfaction. So I'm going to put a washer to fill that space up, maybe 2 washers, and I'll show you that next. All right, so I got my modified washer system here, and it's a number 8 washer that I'm using. It's going to be perfect for this purpose. They actually supply a number 6 washer here, and this is the flat black washer, but this is an optional part. It's not required, but it's certainly going to make the guide work better. So let's put it back together again the way I was showing you earlier. Again, we're going to put the carriage bolt through the top, right? And first thing we're going to do on the carriage bolt is take that number 6 washer, put it on it, and I'll zoom in on that here so you can see what that looks like. And you can see that the number 6 washer fits the square bottom of this bolt all the way to the base, so that's perfect. That's what we want. So use a number 6 washer for that. Fit it through the hole as shown in the, well, not as shown as in the instructions, but fit it through the hole. Put your secondary washer on the back, your split washer or lock washer on the back again, and then your wing nut, like so, and tighten it down. And now you have a really nice functioning guide with the washer on the top to give you more friction to hold the top of this guide as well, and you know, a much better fit. So I suggest strongly getting a number 8 washer for the top of this and mounting it as I have here. So that'll give you a much better guide and a much better assembly, and it really has a nice ride to it at this point. You could even, if you wanted to, go get yourself another carriage bolt and do it again on the back. Then you got 2 locks, and then there's no wobble in it at all. Though once you lock it down, there is no wobble there anyways. But again, it's up to you whether you buy extra hardware to make this work better. So that's how you do the fence guide. And next, you have to mount it on the actual unit itself, and it just basically goes like this. You get your thumb bolt and your washers. So I'll show you how to do that. And your washers go, okay, your washers are going to go like this. Your wavy washer first, on the and then your secondary washer here, your number 6, I would say, silver washer on there as well. Then you take the fence guide, place it on the actual base as such, and then tighten it down by turning the bolt on that clockwise. And what that wavy washer does is allow you to release tension without actually losing this guide. It sort of keeps a bit of pressure on the plate itself. So there we go. And that's all the way down tight, and that's what it looks like from the top, just like that. And that little knob allows you to do a lot of things, like adjust the height. So if you have a piece that you need to adjust the height on, it gives you that functionality there. And also, if you loosen it all the way off, just take it right off. And again, putting it back on, you just slide it back in and make sure it's under the washers, like so, and then lock it down. Now the next thing we're going to do is set up what they call a temporary guide. And basically what you're going to do is you can use the fence as a unit to actually route a circle or cut a circular piece using the router itself. And the way you do that is by taking the wing nut off the back of the fence and the hardware off the back of the fence, like so. Take the carriage bolt and our optional number 8 washer on the back off, and what you do is you put it on top as such, and then you use the secondary hole or whichever hole you wish to use that best gives you the ability to do what I'm going to show you next. Again, carriage bolt goes through the bottom, or basically make sure that it goes through the slotted piece of the guide, like such. Black washer, split washer for locking the wing nut. There it's nice and tight. Now what this allows you to do is take the router, put the guide on the router, lock it down like so. And once it's locked down, now the fence is sitting above it. But the reason for the fence there is to give you the ability to basically use it to route a hole. So at this point, if you had, let's say, a nail or maybe a nail would probably be the best thing to put on there, or a stud or something. Through that hole, you can now make it go around that circle, like so. And then you can cut a circle using it. And by adjusting the guide, you can adjust the diameter of the hole, right? And if that's not big enough for you, you can turn this around and have the hole on the other side, or take this nut off and use this hole as the actual guide for giving you a nice even radius all the way around that piece of wood. So however you want to hold it down, that's what that's for. So you have this hole to use as a stud point, or you can take this nut washer and assembly off here, put it over here, and use the hole on this side for the same purpose. It's up to you, right? But that's how you use that as a temporary guide to do circle cutting, which is a great feature. So next, we're going to do some routing. Actually, no, there's one more guide I want to show you and mount on the machine, and how to use it. Next, we're going to install the trim guide, and this is a nice little device that comes with the tool. I recommend putting a little lubricating grease on it, on the surfaces, just to make it, give it that much better action when you're moving it. But the nice feature about this is that it allows you to guide your router bit a little bit more accurately. And I'll show you how it goes on. It goes much like the fence goes on onto the head unit, like this. And then you just lock it down. And as you can see here, I've got you got various adjustments in height, so on and so forth, and you can adjust the height of it by turning the knob and changing it here. Now I would suggest not coming that close to your bit, because you don't want to actually make contact with a device that's spinning at 26,000 RPM. It'll wear through this in no time, and it might damage the bit as well. So keep it at a distance away from the bit. You'll notice that this bit has a bearing on top right here, and you can use that as a guide to make a cut, but sometimes you may want to not go as deep into the piece of wood, and you could use this as a guide like so, by adjusting the length there to keep it further away from the wood, and then just lock it down with the top piece as so. And you can use that as a guide to keep you from further away from the piece of wood, and basically shaving off less or more. Now another place you can use this as well is with standard bits. Go back on this. Too far on that. There we go. And I'm going to remove it for a second. Remove the bit. Grab a different bit. Again, I'm going to put a link to these bits on the actual video description. And let's say we had you needed a straight cut in a piece of wood, and you're going to use a straight cut bit like this one. It has no bearing on the top, so you may want to more accurately guide that. You could use a side guide on this to give you that kind of straight line on it, or you could use the fence as well, right? Or in this case, you could use this guide here, and then it basically acts like the bearing would on a normal bit, and it gives you the ability to adjust the depth and how deep you're going to go into it. Basically, it's a nicer trim guide, nicer guide, but it's up to you how you use it. This gives you that nice functionality of being able to limit how deep you go on that. What is that called? A straight cut 1/4 inch bit. Now, again, how you use it's up to you, but it's a definitely nice bonus on this router, and it comes with the router. So next, we'll do some routing and see what we get. Although the 1/4 inch straight bit wasn't thick enough to actually make the trim guide useful, I'm going to use a trim guide on the 5/8 straight bit, and just going to use it to cut a notch off the edge of the piece of wood and show you how it works with that. And notice that this bit does not have a bearing on the end of it, so this is a perfect place for the trim guide to actually do its job. So next I'll show you that. So here's the notch cut out of that, and it looks fairly nice, like a fairly smooth cut, if you can see here. I'll go through the whole thing. Close quarters there. As you can see, it's a fairly good cut. There's a little bit of wobble in it, but the one problem is this. If your piece of wood is not straight, like this one is not straight, you can see that the wood itself has a bit of a bow to it right here. It will also carry through to the route. So there's the other problem. If your wood is not perfectly straight, then your cut will not be perfectly straight either. You'll get the same bow in the cut as you do have on the edge, because the trim guide actually rests on the edge itself. So there's the trim guide. It works just fine, especially if you have a nice straight piece of wood. But this is not a nice straight piece of wood, so you don't get a nice straight notch. I'm going to freehand a cut here using the router. And of course, like with all power tools, make sure you follow all the safety precautions and you wear the right and correct safety gear. In my case, I'm wearing safety glasses and ear protection. But one of the things I wanted to show you is that the bit actually rotates in a counterclockwise direction. So if you're actually looking at it from the face, it will be rotating this way. And why that's important is you want the face of the bit, or the actual face of the blade on the bit, to actually make contact with the surface in the direction that you're traveling. So in other words, you want it to go around and chop all the way through. Now if you don't know which way the direction of rotation is, there is actually an arrow cut into the actual height guide, or the guide. As well, you'll notice on the guide that there is a part or a section which is larger than the other sections. That's what you want to rest against the actual wood. So let me go, let's go this way. So this is the wider guide, and this is the side that you should be resting against the wood, and the face will be here, and it will be rotating in this direction. So we want to hit it and move it in this direction. If you go from the other side back, you're going to have a problem with the face not cutting it well, and it'll probably burn the wood as well. So make sure that you travel in the right direction. You'll figure it out quite quickly if you're doing it wrong, because one way it just feels right, the other way it just feels wrong. Another thing too, you'll see that the cutout here, so you can see what you're doing, is on the long side of the guide. So let's do I've got a basically just chose a depth on the actual bit, but it doesn't really matter as I'm freehanding this. So let's start it up and do a cut. Okay, so there's a small cut. Now you notice that when I started the cut, I'm going to get you a better angle on this so you can see what I actually did. Okay, here's the better angle. Let me get the cord out of the way. Now, you notice that this is a bearing bit. It has a bearing on the end of it. So what you want to do is you want to start where the bearing will actually make contact on the wood, and of course in the right direction. So you start the router spinning, and then you'll push it towards the bearing till it stops, and then you'll travel in that direction to cut the wood. So let's do that, and so you can see what I do. Okay, so there we go. There's a nice cove cut all the way across. You saw how I started it here, so that it went in, and then I backed it up a little bit to make sure I got the very edge, and now you see how nice that cut is on that piece. So that's a beautiful cove cut. Freehanding it seems to work just fine. Now you can use a guide as well to hold the wood, in which case you're going to have a bit of an issue clamping. You're going to have to clamp it on the long end or somewhere else so that you don't have an issue with the guide actually hitting the side of the guide or stopping the guide on your work all the way through. But that's a basic cut there. I'll do one more. This one I'm just going to modify this cut a little bit by putting a slice on the top. All right, now I got my 3/8 round over bit, and it has a nice little sharp edge on the very corner of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it to just basically route a line on the top of this current cove cut that I have, just to make it a little nicer. So first I'm going to start the router spinning, get it up to speed. Then I'm going to actually get the cord out of the way so it's not an issue. But then I'm going to start it by starting the bearing at the end and just pushing it in until I'm done, and then I'm going to slide all the way across. So let's do that. All right, now I just put a nice little notch on the very top of that cove cut just to make it look that much more fancy. Like I said, you can play around with these bits and actually get all sorts of different patterns on there, or you can buy the bit with the pattern already on it, and you can go from there. So let's see what we got here. Let me bring that closer. There's what it looks like. Looks really nice. I'll give you some profiles here. Again, clamps are really cool to have, and there's the actual shape of it. Looks really nice. Add a little bit of extra here on the edge, but you could just, use your finger and just take the excess off there, that little shaved edge. A beautiful result. So this is going to do a really great job for me and for the things I need to get done on the house. What else on this? Basically, I'd say just practice with some old wood. Take your time, be careful, follow the safety precautions, of course, and experiment with the guides. I'm going to show you one more trick that I find to be really handy for this, and for non-bearing router bits as well as bearing router bits. Just a better solution than the guide. So I'll show you that next little trick, and you can go from there if you wish. Here's what I'm going to use as a edge guide instead of what was supplied with the router. I have a clamp and cut edge guide. This is a 24-inch aluminum bar, and it's made for actually circular saws to guide you and give you a nice straight edge when you're cutting. But it'll work beautifully fine here. Probably a smaller one would do better in this case, but this will work just fine. It's got two clamps on, basically got a clamp on the bottom. You adjust it and you put it on the wood, and then you set where you want it to cut. So we're going to do that. I'm using two pieces of wood here just because I wanted to clamp solidly on both, and the clamp would actually be overhanging a little bit. So let me see here. I'll put it where it's going to actually do some work. All right, so I'm going to set this up and tighten it up. So at this point, what you do is get the clamp together like this. And then snug it down. Check your depth. I'm a little off, so I'll change that. Okay, almost there. And I'm going to clamp all of this down to the table when it's adjusted to the right depth. I think I'm there. And I'm going to check both ends with my ruler, this end and that end, just to make sure I'm parallel with that edge. And then I'm going to use the straight bit on this router to cut an edge on that. All right, I got my clamping cut edge guide on that piece of wood and measured out right, and have the straight 1/4 inch bit just to cut a notch on the edge of that block of wood. So we're going to do that next. Okay, there's the finished result, a nice square notch cut out of that corner of that block right there. So did a great job doing a nice straight cut with that guide. Now the guides that come with it, well, I'll do the same thing on the other side using the guides that come with the block and see what the result looks like. All right, so I fitted the trim guide onto this bit to see if I can get it to do the same thing, and I can't back the trim guide here far back enough to get that bit in as close as I need to cut that notch out. See if you can see that, get a better look at it here. Like that. That's as far back as that roller is going to go. So I'm limited to how deep it will cut. It'll just touch the edge of the wood and make a cut, but it won't do the same depth of notch that will do. So, you know, for this purpose, the clamping guide is a better option than this. Now I'm going to use the fence and see if I can get the same result with a fence. This trim guide won't work for this. Okay, here's the fence guide that came with the router, adjusted correctly for that bit. Excuse me. And it should do, looks like it'll do a good job of cutting out that notch. And I've adjusted it to the depth of that hole with this router bit. I've got that fence correctly adjusted for the right depth that I need to make that cut. And I'm going to do that next. One of the things about using this fence is you can't clamp down your work to keep it steady, number one. And number two, you need to, when you're cutting through the wood, you need to make sure that you press against the fence to keep it from going deeper into the wood than it should. Okay, so we'll do that next and see what kind of result we get. Not a bad result, but certainly not as good as it was with the clamping edge. It's definitely not as even. Let's see if I can bring that up and you can see this. You can see that the edge is kind of choppy. I've got some, unevenness here at the start, unevenness at the end as well here. It's just nowhere near as good as the original cut. I'll show you the original cut I did with the with the clamping guide here. And the top one's the original, and it's just perfect. Where the second one I did with the fence is choppy at best. So maybe you can finesse it enough to get a good cut, but it's going to be a rough router every time you use that fence for a guide. I'd rather will certainly be using the clamping edge guide for this to do routing, because it's just nowhere near the same quality. This looks really choppy. It's nowhere near as good as it was. This is nowhere near as good as the second one was here. Oh, the first one, sorry. That one's just smooth and perfect. This one's just choppy and uneven. So, yeah, it's definitely recommend getting yourself a clamping edge guide to do the routing with. And using just the bearing on the bottom of the router bit seems to work quite well as well. But on bits that don't have the bearing on the bottom, the clamping edge guide is definitely the way to go. That's it for my video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video and it helped you out in some way, do me a favor, click on the like button right down here. And you know, if you wish to subscribe to my channel, just click on this link up here. And that should subscribe you to the Richard Lloyd channel, or Richard Lloyd USA channel. Okay, again, thank you very much for your time and watching.